It was 60 degrees yesterday. One of those early spring days that feels like permission. I looked out the window and saw my neighbor with his wheelbarrow. Front foundation bed, rake in hand, debris already piled high. For a moment, it felt like I missed the start. I felt that pull, that sense that spring had officially begun, and I should probably be out there too. Here's the thing spring keeps reminding me of, no matter how long I've been gardening. You don't command growth, you create conditions. And those two ideas feel similar until the garden shows you the difference. This isn't a video about spring checklists or what you should be doing right now in the garden. It's about that quiet urgency we feel when the season shifts, that sense that if we don't act soon, we're already falling behind. And how the garden keeps reminding me, especially in these early weeks, that growth doesn't respond to effort or timing. It responds to readiness. And learning to trust that might be the real work of spring. Before we go any further, let me introduce myself. I'm Michelle, and this space is a lot like gardening. It unfolds slowly. Some things take hold right away, others take time, and a few surprise us entirely. Hostas, gardens, friendships, and sometimes lessons we weren't looking for. If you're craving a quieter, more reflective way to think about gardening, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Subscribing makes it easier to return. And today, we're talking about spring, not as a season of control, but as a season of conditions. Yesterday, I wanted to be in the garden. I had plans, nothing big. I planned to take a walk through the garden, poke around a bit. I planned to bring a rake along. I even thought about fertilizer, just enough to feel responsible. It wasn't frantic, it wasn't urgent, it was just that familiar spring feeling, the sense that something is starting and I should probably be part of it. But the day got away from me, as days sometimes do, and strangely, that turned out to be just fine, because it reminded me of something the garden taught me over the years. 2 years ago, a hosta didn't show up. That absence stayed with me. I had planted twilight the fall before, late in the season, maybe too late. I added it for the young people in my life. The leaves are darker than Edward's brooding gaze, and the yellow margins shine brighter than Bella's love triangle. It felt like a hopeful choice, a thoughtful one. Spring came, and twilight didn't. No sign, no movement, no reassurance. At first I was worried, then I was curious. And then, if I'm honest, I was quietly disappointed. I checked the spot, I brushed aside the leaf litter, I poked carefully, gently, trying not to disturb anything that might still be alive. Nothing. I remember thinking how disappointed the girls would be, and I remember deciding not to say anything just yet, which looking back might have been the wisest decision of all. There's something about not naming a loss too early in the garden and in life. Sometimes we rush to label something as gone, just simply because it hasn't appeared on our schedule. Have you heard the numerous spottings of believed to be extinct or haven't seen in 20 years species? A cottontail rabbit in Mexico, earless dragon in Australia, the starry night harlequin toad in Colombia. These stories renew my faith in the resilience of the natural world. In my garden, sometimes silence is patience in disguise. Weeks later, without announcement, without apology, much like the species that aren't extinct, there she was, as if twilight had never agreed to our calendar in the first place. 3 shiny dark green leaves, wide gracious margins, taller stems than I'd remembered. A medium hosta emerging calmly, as if she'd never been gone at all. Twilight had her own timeline, and no interest in mine, as our beloved garden plants often do. If you've ever waited on hardy hibiscus in Wisconsin, you know exactly what I mean. Maybe you're in Minnesota or the Dakotas or even Iowa. You check, you wait, you doubt yourself, and then eventually, when you least expect it, when you've just about given up hope, there it is. It's an exercise in restraint and patience, and not mistaking quiet for failure. Spring does this thing to us. It makes action feel like progress, even when nothing is ready. We see someone else already cleaning up, already hauling debris, already doing. And suddenly standing still feels like falling behind. But spring isn't actually asking us to hurry. It's asking us to prepare. In the nursery here at Hosta Heaven, we fertilize early, before leaves emerge, before plants are fully awake. It's just easier that way. There's no foliage in the way, there's more time in the day, and there are fewer distractions from planting or selling. We use time-release fertilizer, which is a bit of a misnomer. That makes me smile a little bit. It doesn't release based on time. It lasts for a while. That's the time element. But it releases based on temperature and a little moisture, based on readiness. The granules sit there quietly, doing nothing visible. No performance, no proof, until the soil warms, until the rains come, until the plant is ready. Then, slowly, steadily, they feed the plant over the entire growing season. We fertilize once, and then we're done. It works beautifully in a perennial nursery. It works in gardens too, and in containers. But here's the part that always stops me. When we apply it, nothing happens. And that's the part that asks the most of us. The leaves don't unfurl, there's no instant response, there's no visible gratitude. You just have to trust that it will do its thing when the plants are ready. And every year I notice how much I still want proof. I want the plant to acknowledge my effort, to say, yes, that was the right moment, or, oh, thank you, that's just what I needed. But growth doesn't respond to effort. It responds to readiness. That's one reason we don't rush cleanup. We leave leaf litter, last year's stems, bits of garden debris that make the beds look unfinished, untidy. Because beneath it, pollinators are overwintering. Frogs and toads, other quiet garden friends, they're waiting out the cold. Early cleanup can be a disaster for them. Waiting becomes an act of care. Leaf litter breaks down, it feeds the soil, it shelters life we rarely see. Yes, it may attract a few slugs, and shelter a few slugs too. But in the long run, it gives far more than it takes. Sometimes the most responsible thing we can do is to step back and let sunlight and temperature and whatever unseen wisdom guides the season do what only nature knows how to do, even when it looks unfinished. And I notice that same pattern in myself with the people I care about, with conversations I want to rush, with outcomes I want to protect. I give time, attention, my best intentions. But I'm learning, sometimes slowly, that my best intentions aren't what's always best for the current season, in the garden and in life. Support doesn't always look like action. Care doesn't always look like intervention. Flourishing isn't something you demand. It's something you allow. You create conditions. You don't command growth. Fertilizer doesn't force leaves to emerge. Cleanup doesn't wake up the plants. Waiting doesn't mean neglect. It means trust. Trust that timing is doing the work we can't see. It means understanding that effort and control are not the same thing. So this spring, I'm trying to notice less what's happening and more what's quietly being prepared for. The garden isn't late, and neither are we. Although sometimes we're early enough that the garden allows us to practice our patience. The garden does that a lot, doesn't it? If the garden is where you contemplate what life reveals, you're always welcome here at Hosta Heaven. Until the next chapter, in the Hosta Garden.